In October 2016, 5 college friends drove into the Cherokee National Forest for a weekend camping trip, posting selfies from Kayla Dawson's black Jeep, laughing about their digital detox in the wilderness. They never came back. The sheriff found their campsite, pristine sleeping bags, still rolled, food unopened, no Jeep, no tracks, no signs of struggle. The theory was they'd gotten lost, hiking, maybe fell into one of the deep ravines that scar the Tennessee mountains. After 6 months of searching, the case went cold. 5 families learned to live with questions that had no answers. But in October 2021, when hikers found that abandoned house off the old logging road, they saw Kayla's Jeep parked outside, covered in 5 years of dirt and leaves. On the house's wall, a warning in red paint. There is nothing in this house worth dying for. Stay out or be carried out. Inside on a rusted table lay the keys with Kayla's sunrise keychain. The basement held worse discoveries. 5 purses lined on a shelf, 5 phone scratch marks covering the walls, and carved into the door frame in different handwriting. Kayla Brittany Amber Jenna Taylor. The paint on that warning was barely a year old, which meant whoever wrote it had known the girls were here for 4 years and had said nothing. Matt Polson had been hiking these trails for 30 years, but he'd never seen the old logging road that branched off behind the fallen oak. His wife, Deb, spotted it first, barely visible through the October undergrowth, just 2 ruts in the earth leading deeper into the forest. Probably goes nowhere, Deb said, but Matt was already pushing through the brambles. The road curved for maybe a quarter mile before the house appeared. It squatted there like something that had grown from the earth rather than been built on it. Gray wood siding windows, black with dirt roof, half collapsed, and parked right in front, covered in leaves and bird droppings, was a black Jeep. Matt. Deb's voice was tight. She was reading something painted on the side of the house in red letters, maybe 3 FT tall. There is nothing in this house worth dying for. Stay out or be carried out. Kids, Matt said, but his voice wavered. Probably just kids. The Jeep's tires were rotted, sunk into the earth. Tennessee plates covered in grime. Matt wiped the plate with his sleeve. The registration sticker said 2016. We should go, Deb said, but Matt was already at the house's broken window, peering in. The inside was a wreck. Furniture overturned, papers scattered, ceiling caved in places. But on what remained of a table, something caught the light, keys with a sunrise keychain. Matt's hand went to his phone before his brain caught up. That keychain. He'd seen it before on the missing posters that had been all over town 5 years ago. The Dawson girl, Kayla, one of the 5 who'd vanished. 911, what's your emergency? We found them, Matt heard himself say. The girls from 2016, we found where they were. Sheriff Wade Cooper arrived in 12 minutes, faster than anyone had driven that logging road in decades. He was 61. Had been sheriff for 15 years, and the case of the 5 missing girls had nearly destroyed him. He'd known 3 of their families personally. Cooper took one look at the Jeep, then the message on the house, and called the FBI. Don't touch anything, he told the Polsons. Not a damn thing. But Matt was already pointing through the window. Sheriff, the keys. Cooper saw them. The sunrise keychain. He'd bought it for Kayla himself at the gas station when she'd gotten the Jeep, a graduation present joke, because she was always late. Early bird, he'd said. She'd laughed. The FBI arrived within 2 hours. The house became a crime scene, wrapped in yellow tape, swarming with texts in white suits. They entered through the front door, which opened with just a push. The lock had been broken for years. The main floor told a story. 5 purses arranged on a shelf like trophies. 5 cell phones in a row on the mantle, all different models, all dead. Women's clothing folded in neat piles, hiking boots lined up by size. But it was the basement that made even the seasoned agent stop. The door was reinforced steel installed recently, maybe within the last decade. Based on the rust patterns, it locked from the outside. The wood frame around it was covered in scratches, fingernail marks, some with dried blood still visible, hand carved into the frame in different handwriting at different heights. Kayla Dawson, Brittany Cole, Amber Hutchinson, Jenna Walsh, Taylor Moss. The basement itself was divided into 2 rooms. The first held 5 sleeping bags on the floor buckets in the corner, empty water bottles. The walls were covered in scratches, calendar marks, prayers written in what looked like charcoal, day 43 in one spot, please God in another, Mom, I'm sorry. Near the floor, the second room was different, cleaner. A single chair bolted to the floor, restraints attached to the arms, a drain in the concrete floor. The walls here weren't scratched. They were too far from the chair to reach. Ryan Dawson heard about the discovery while at work, framing a house in Millbrook. His foreman saw him go. White saw the phone slip from his hand. They found something was all Ryan could say. He drove the 30 miles in 20 minutes, his construction truck Fish, tailing on the mountain curves. The police tried to stop him at the roadblock they'd set up, but Cooper waved him through. Is she there? Ryan asked. Is Kayla? We haven't found any bodies, Cooper said carefully. But Ryan, they were here, all 5 of them. Ryan tried to push past to get to the house, but 2 agents held him back. That's my sister's Jeep. Her keys. Where is she? We don't know yet. The FBI evidence team worked through the night. They found DNA from all 5 girls, hair samples, fingerprints, blood types that matched, but no bodies, no remains. The girls had been here, lived here for some period of time, and then gone. Special Agent Rivera, who'd driven down from Nashville to lead the investigation, stood outside studying the painted message. The paint was latex hardware store variety applied with a brush. But what interested her was the age. The house had been exposed to weather for decades, but the paint was relatively fresh, maybe a year old, 2 at most. Someone painted this after the girls were taken, she told Cooper, years after warning people away or marking territory. Ryan sat on the hood of Cooper's cruiser, staring at his sister's Jeep. 5 years of searching, of not knowing, and now this evidence they'd been held imprisoned, but still no answers about where they were now. Deb Polson gave her statement for the 4th time, her voice steady but hands shaking. The way the keys were placed, she said dead center on that table, like someone wanted them to be found. But that message was telling us to stay away. Cooper had a team photograph every inch of the house. In one of the photos barely visible in the basement, they found something else written in what looked like Brittany Cole's handwriting based on comparison to her journal they'd found in her purse. He comes at night. Local accent, knows our families, knows the woods. We trusted him. Cooper felt his stomach turn. Local someone from town. Someone who'd probably helped search for these girls, someone who'd comforted their families. As the sun set over the Cherokee forest, the house gave up one more secret. Under the loose floorboards in the basement second room, wrapped in plastic, was a journal, not written by the girls, written by someone else, someone documenting what was done to them. The first entry was dated October 15th, 2016, 3 days after the girls vanished. The last entry was dated December 2016, just 2 months later. But the message on the house that had been painted in 2020 based on the paint's weathering patterns, which meant someone had known this house and its secrets for 4 years before painting that warning. Someone had known and kept silent while 5 families suffered. The journal would need to be processed, its contents analyzed, but one thing was already clear from the handwriting, from the methodical nature of the entries. Whoever took these girls had help, or someone had discovered what happened and chose to hide it. Either way, Ryan thought as he stared at that red-painted warning, someone in town knew exactly what had happened to his sister, and they were still out there. The FBI's evidence response team worked through the night, transforming the abandoned house into a grid of numbered squares, each photographed, cataloged, processed. By dawn, they had enough evidence to know this wasn't just a crime scene, it was a prison. Special Agent Rivera stood in the basement's main room, reading from her tablet. DNA confirms all 5 girls were here. Hair samples from different time periods suggest they were here for at least 2 months, possibly 3. Sheriff Cooper studied the scratch marks on the walls, but the last journal entry was December 2016. That's only 2 months after they vanished. The entry stopped, but the evidence continues. Rivera said, "Look at this." She led him to the corner where they had found fingernail marks in the wooden support beam. Different heights, different angles. The forensics team had found 23 distinct sets of scratches, suggesting extended periods of restraint, and they were moved. Rivera continued one at a time based on the pattern. The DNA in the second room, the one with the chair, shows they were taken there individually. Ryan had been allowed closer to the scene, though not inside. He stood at the basement door, staring at his sister's name carved into the frame. Kayla had carved it deep, like she wanted it to last, like she wanted someone to know she'd been here. The journal found under the floorboards was being processed at the FBI lab, but Rivera had photographs of each page. She showed them to Cooper in the mobile command unit they'd set up. The handwriting was neat, controlled, the kind of penmanship teachers used to insist on each entry methodical. October 15, 2016, day 3. They're adjusting. Kayla fights the most. Brittany cries. Amber prays. Jenna tries to negotiate. Taylor hasn't spoken. October 22nd, 2016, day 10. Established routine. Morning feeding at 7:00. Evening at 6:00. Kayla tried to attack when I opened the door. Had to discipline. The others watched. They're learning. November 1st, 2016. Moved Brittany upstairs first. The others could hear but not see. Important for conditioning. She was gone 4 hours. Returned her conscious but compliant. Amber asked what happened. Brittany won't say. Cooper felt sick reading it. This person knew what they were doing. This wasn't random. No, Rivera agreed. This was planned, systematic, and local. Look at this entry. November 15th, 2016. Saw Cooper's search team 2 miles west. They won't find this place. Been in my family since the 1940s. Not on any current maps. Town thinks it burned in 78. Family property. Cooper said someone whose family has been here for generations, but it was the hidden pages they found that changed everything. Brittany had managed to hide several sheets of paper inside the wall insulation, written with what looked like ash mixed with water. He knows us, knows our families mention things about us that only someone from town would know. Said he watched us plan the camping trip at the diner. Said he's done this before, but we're special. We're his finale. Day 18. I think he brought someone else today. Couldn't see who. They argued. The other person said this has to stop. And he said after this group. The other person sounded young, maybe our age, male. Day 24. The younger one came back, brought us extra water medicine for Taylor's infected cut. I think he's the son. He looked at us like he was sorry, like he knew this was wrong, but couldn't stop it. Day 31. Kayla tried to talk to the son, begged him to let us go. He cried, actually cried, said, I can't. He's my father, but after you, no more, he promised. Rivera pulled up DMV records, property records, tax records, looking for families who'd owned land in this area since the 1940s. The list was shorter than expected. Only 12 families had that kind of history. Cross-reference with men who have sons aged 20 to 30, she told her analyst. The list narrowed to 4 names. Dale Hutchkins was one of them. Cooper knew Dale. Everyone did. Lived off the grid mostly, but came to town for supplies, helped during searches. His son Tommy had been more social worked at the hardware store, dated local girls, died in a hunting accident in 2020. Pulled Tommy Hutchkins's death certificate, Rivera ordered. While they waited, the forensics team found something else. In the Jeep, under years of leaves and dirt, was a single shell casing, 308 caliber, the kind used for hunting rifles, but it was inside the vehicle under the driver's seat. Someone fired a gun inside the Jeep, Cooper asked, or it fell from someone's pocket, Rivera suggested. Someone who hunts. The death certificate arrived electronically. Tommy Hutchkins, age 24, died November 15, 2020, from a gunshot wound to the chest. Hunting accident. His father, Dale, had found the body, called it in, no autopsy, small town, obvious accident, family's wishes. November 2020, Rivera said slowly. And when did our pain analysis say that message was painted? Late 2020, maybe early 2021. They looked at each other. The timeline was forming. More evidence emerged from the house. In the attic, they found supplies, canned goods, water jugs, medical supplies, enough for months. This wasn't a temporary holding place. Someone had planned to keep the girls here long term, but there were also signs of disruption. Furniture overturned not from age, but from violence. Bullet holes in one wall, patched but visible under UV light. A blood spatter pattern suggesting a fight. Ryan stood outside, processing what he was learning. His sister had been held here, tortured here. But then, what? Where was she now? The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Matt Polson, who'd found the house, remembered something. That paint on the message he told Cooper. I sold paint at Hutchinson's Hardware for 10 years. That specific shade of red barn red, number 47. We only carried at special order. Had to order a minimum of 5 gallons. Cooper pulled the hardware store records. In October 2020, 1 month before Tommy's death, someone had ordered 5 gallons of barn red number 47. The name on the order, T. Hutchkins. Tommy had bought the paint, but the message was painted after his death. Rivera assembled the timeline on a whiteboard. October 2016, squirrels taken. October-December 2016, held in house. Journal entries, January 2017, October 2020, no evidence of what happened. October 2020, Tommy orders red paint. November 2020, Tommy dies in hunting accident. December 2020, message painted on house. October 2021, house discovered Tommy new. Rivera said he found out what his father had done. He bought paint to mark the house, maybe to expose it, but he died before he could. And Dale painted the message instead, Cooper added, to keep people away. But there was still the question that haunted everyone. Where were the girls? That answer came from the ground, penetrating radar they brought in behind the house. In what looked like undisturbed forest floor, the radar found 5 anomalies, 5 patches of disturbed earth, each roughly 6 FT long, each exactly the size of a grave. The families would need to be notified. DNA tests would need to confirm, but everyone already knew what they'd find. Except when they started digging, they only found 4 bodies. Kayla Amber Jenna Taylor, Brittany Cole wasn't there, and when they checked the journal again, they noticed something they'd missed. The entry stopped in December 2016, but there was one line written in different ink dated much later. October 2020, Tommy found out. Brittany talked should have killed her with the others. Brittany had survived, had been kept alive, and somehow she'd told Tommy the truth, which meant somewhere out there, Brittany Cole might still be alive, and Dale Hutchkins was still free. October 14th, 2016, the last normal day. Kayla Dawson had posted the photo at 2:47 p.m., all 5 of them draped over her black Jeep, laughing. The caption read, "Digital Detox Weekend. See you Monday, losers." Brittany Cole had commented, If we die out there, I'm haunting you first. The irony wasn't lost on anyone reading it. 5 years later, they'd left from Kayla's parents' house around 4:00 p.m. Ryan remembered because he'd been fixing their garage door and Kayla had honked the horn just to annoy him. He'd flipped her off. She'd laughed. That was the last time he saw his sister. The plan had been simple. Camp at designated site number 47 in Cherokee National Forest, a spot Kayla had reserved weeks in advance. 3 nights of hiking campfires and friendship before they all went back to college for senior year. Amber had even brought her camera to document everything for their last Hera before real life. Sheriff Cooper had been on duty that Sunday when Brenda Dawson called. The girls were supposed to be back this morning, she'd said, voice tight with controlled panic. Kayla's not answering her phone. Standard protocol was to wait 24 hours for adults, but Cooper knew these girls. They weren't the types to disappear. By Sunday evening, he'd driven out to campsite number 47 himself. Everything was wrong. The campsite was pristine. 5 sleeping bags, still rolled tight. Cooler full of unopened food. Amber's expensive camera sitting on the picnic table. No signs of struggle, but also no signs anyone had actually camped there, like they'd set up and immediately left or been taken. The search started at dawn Monday. Volunteers from Town State Police Park Rangers. They found the Jeep's tracks leaving the campsite, heading down a firebreak road that wasn't supposed to be accessible to civilians. The tracks went for about 3 miles before disappearing on rocky ground. No Jeep, no girls, nothing. Logan Price, Brittany's boyfriend, became an immediate suspect. He'd been texting her obsessively that weekend, angry she'd gone without him. The texts got progressively worse. Where are you? This is Sir. Britt, I know you have signal. Stop ignoring me. When you get back, we're done. Actually, I'm coming up there. But Logan's alibi was solid. He'd been at a bar in Millbrook, gotten into a fight around midnight Saturday, spent the night in the drunk tank. Sheriff Cooper himself had processed him. The search expanded. Helicopters, cadaver dogs, infrared imaging. The forest was vast, but they covered every trail, every ravine, every abandoned structure on the official maps. They never found the house off the old logging road because, according to county records, it had burned down in 1978. Dale Hutchkins had joined the search on day 3, bringing his tracking expertise. He'd pointed out game trails, suggested areas where someone might get lost. He'd comforted Brenda Dawson when she broke down at the command post. Girls that age, he'd said, sometimes they just need to spread their wings. They'll turn up. His son Tommy had helped too, quieter than his father, but dedicated. He'd spent 2 weeks straight in the woods, coming back mud-covered and exhausted each night. People said later he'd seemed haunted by the disappearance, took it personally. Now they knew why. By November 2016, the official search was called off. The FBI had investigated trafficking angles, drug connections, serial predator patterns. Nothing fit. 5 girls had simply vanished into the forest. The families didn't give up. Ryan quit his job to search full-time. He mapped every inch of the forest, marked off grids, systematic and obsessive. He'd sleep in his truck at trailheads, wake at dawn to hike another section. Brenda Dawson, aged 10 years and 6 months. She kept Kayla's room exactly as it was bed, still unmade from that last morning. She'd sit there sometimes, holding the pillow that still smelled faintly of her daughter's shampoo. The Cole family hired private investigators, 3 different firms, over 2 years spending their retirement savings. Each came to the same conclusion. The girls had either been taken out of the area immediately or were dead in the forest. Amber's parents started a foundation, offered a $50,000 reward for information. They got hundreds of tips. Psychics, conspiracy theorists, people claiming to have seen the girls in Mexico, Canada, working at strip clubs in Atlanta, all dead ends. Jenna's family moved away after a year. couldn't bear the weight of everyone's sympathy. The way conversations stopped when they entered rooms. Taylor's parents divorced. Her father blamed her mother for letting her go. Her mother blamed him for not insisting on GPS trackers. The truth was, neither could stand seeing their daughter's face in the other's features. The town held vigils every October 14th. Candles in the square, prayers, promises to never forget. But by year 3, fewer people came. By year 4, it was mostly just the families. Dale Hutchkins came every year, stood in the back, head bowed respectfully. The case files filled 3 boxes at the sheriff's station. Thousands of pages of interviews, dead-end leads, forensic reports that led nowhere. Cooper read them over and over, looking for what he'd missed. The answer had been there all along, hidden in Tommy Hutchkins' behavior. Looking back, the signs were obvious. The way Tommy had searched the exact areas where they'd never find anything, how he'd accidentally contaminated potential evidence scenes, his breakdown in December 2016, which everyone attributed to exhaustion and empathy. He'd known, even then he'd known. Cooper found Tommy's search notes in the evidence archive, meticulous records of where he'd looked, but there was a pattern. He'd carefully avoided the northeast section of the forest, always had excuses: bare sightings, unsafe terrain, private property, the property that had supposedly burned in 1978. There was one other thing discovered only as they reviewed old evidence with new eyes: a gas station receipt from October 14, 2016, found in the search of the campsite area. Everyone assumed it had blown in from the road, but the timestamp was 8:47 p.m. after the girls had disappeared. The receipt was for 5 gall of gas paid in cash. The station was 20 meters from the campsite on the opposite side of the forest. Security footage from that night had been overwritten after 30 days long before anyone thought to check it. But the receipt had a partial fingerprint, too smudged to match in 2016. With modern enhancement techniques, they could try again. Ryan stood in the FBI command unit, staring at the photos of 5 smiling girls, his sister front and center, throwing peace signs at the camera, so alive, so unaware of what was coming. "We're going to find him," Rivera promised. "You found them," Ryan corrected. 4 of them anyway, but Brittany might be alive. And Dale, he stopped, unable to finish. Dale Hutchkins had helped search for girls he'd already killed, had comforted families while their daughters' bodies were buried on his property, had watched the town grieve while he kept his secret, and his son had known, had lived with that knowledge, had tried to order paint, to mark the house, maybe to finally expose the truth. Instead, Tommy had died in a hunting accident 1 month later. Now they understood the real message painted on that house. It wasn't just a warning to stay away. It was Dale's confession that he'd killed his own son to keep the secret, and somewhere out there, Dale Hutchkins was still free, possibly with Brittany Cole. The hunt was about to begin. The hardware store still had Tommy Hutchkins' employee locker in the back room untouched since his death a year ago. The owner, Brad Hutchinson, no relation to Amber, hadn't had the heart to clean it out. Tommy was a good kid, Brad told Agent Rivera as he cut the lock. Quiet after his mom died, but reliable. Never missed a shift until when October 2020 started calling in sick, showing up late. Looked like hell when he did come in. I figured it was depression, anniversary of those girls disappearing and all. The locker contained work gloves, a jacket, deodorant, and a flip phone hidden behind the emergency contact form, an old prepaid, the kind you'd buy at a gas station. Rivera powered it on. The battery was dead, but her tech specialist had a charger. 10 minutes later, they were scrolling through Tommy's hidden life. Draft messages never sent. October 3rd, 2020. I know what you did. October 8th, 2020. They deserve to be found. October 15th, 2020. I can't do this anymore. Then finally one that was sent. October 31st, 2020, to a number that traced back to an FBI tip line. Check the old Hutchkins property off Logging Road 47 1940s house, but the tip had never been investigated. Rivera dug into the records. The tip line had received 1,847 calls about the missing girls over 4 years. This one had been classified as low priority, vague location, no specific evidence. Tommy had tried to tell them 2 weeks before he died. Sheriff Cooper was searching Tommy's apartment when he found the laptop hidden in the ceiling tiles of the bathroom. Why hide a laptop unless there was something on it you didn't want found? The browser history painted a disturbing picture. How to report a crime anonymously. Witness protection program requirements. Can you turn in your father for murder statute of limitations, Tennessee murder? If you know about a crime and don't report it. The searches started October 1st, 2020. Something had happened that day to make Tommy start looking for answers. Ryan found what that something was. October 1st was the day Dale and Tommy went hunting together. Ryan told Rivera, showing her social media posts from locals. Annual thing, first day of bow season. They always went to the same area, northeast section of the forest. Northeast section where the house was. Cooper interviewed Tommy's ex-girlfriend, Marissa Wells. She worked at the diner, had dated Tommy for 2 years before they split in 2019. The breakup was weird. Marissa said, fidgeting with her coffee cup. Tommy just changed, became paranoid, said his dad was making him do things he didn't want to do. I thought he meant like work on the property or something. When did this start? Winter 2016, right after those girls went missing. Tommy was never the same after that search. Rivera pulled Tommy's medical records, 3 ER visits between 2017 and 2020, hunting accidents, each time broken ribs, dislocated shoulder concussion. The attending physician had noted injuries inconsistent with stated cause, but hadn't followed up. Dale had been hurting his son, training him, punishing him, keeping him in line. The breakthrough came from Tommy's phone records. On November 14, 2020, the day before his death, he'd made 17 calls. 16 were to the same number, a burner phone that they couldn't trace. One was to someone unexpected, Brittany Cole's aunt in Memphis. The Aunt Linda Cole answered Rivera's call on the second ring. I've been expecting this call for a year, she said. According to Linda, Tommy had called her frantic, said Brittany was alive, but not for much longer, said his father was cleaning up loose ends. He'd begged her to come get Brittany. Gave an address, 4782 Highway 19, an old trailer on the outskirts of town. I drove up that night, Linda said, but when I got there, the place was empty, burned out, still smoking. Did you report this? To who? The nephew of the sheriff told me a missing girl was alive. Then she wasn't there. They'd have thought I was crazy. Why didn't Tommy call the police himself? Linda was quiet for a moment. He said his dad had ears everywhere, said there were others involved, people in town who knew. Rivera felt cold. Others involved, not just Dale. They searched the burned trailer site. Fire department records showed the fire was reported November 15, 2020 at 3:0 a.m. Anonymous caller. By the time trucks arrived, it was fully engulfed. In the ashes, forensics found bone fragments, human female, but too damaged for DNA extraction. Had Brittany been there? Had Dale moved her and burned the evidence, or had she never been there at all? Ryan was going through Tommy's work schedule when he noticed something. Tommy had requested specific days off over the years, not holidays or weekends, random Tuesdays, Thursdays. But when mapped out, they formed a pattern. Every day, Tommy took off. Someone had reported seeing the missing girls. Credible sightings that pulled resources away from certain areas. A girl matching Kayla's description at a truck stop in Kentucky reported the same day Tommy was off. Brittany supposedly spotted in Nashville. Tommy was off that day too. Tommy had been creating false leads, protecting his father or protecting the girls. Cooper found one more thing in Tommy's apartment. Hidden inside a cutout book was a single key. Old-fashioned brass, the kind used for padlocks. The key had been wrapped in paper with 2 words written in what looked like Brittany's handwriting. Thank you. The key fit nothing at the house, nothing at Dale's property. It was a mystery within a mystery until they checked the journal from the house again. One entry they'd overlooked. December 2nd, 2016, moved B to secondary site. T will handle feeding, less risk. B for Brittany, T for Tommy. Tommy hadn't just known about the crimes, he'd been forced to participate, to feed Brittany, keep her alive, while the others had been killed. Rivera assembled the timeline. October 2016, Tommy forced to help his father with the kidnapped girls. December 2016, Brittany separated from others. Tommy becomes her keeper. 2017 to 2020, Tommy maintains the secret, creates false leads, lives with the guilt. October 1st, 2020. Something happens during hunting trip that breaks Tommy. November 2020. Tommy tries to expose everything. November 15th, 2020. Tommy dies. Trailer burns. Brittany vanishes. Sheriff Cooper stood in the FBI command unit staring at the evidence board. Tommy tried to save her. For 4 years, he kept Brittany alive somehow. Then when he tried to expose it all, Dale killed him. Rivera finished. Ryan held up the key. This opens something. Somewhere Brittany was kept. Tommy gave her this key at some point, but where we've searched every property Dale owns, then we haven't found them all. Ryan said Dale's been here since the 1940s. His family owned half this county once. There have to be other properties, other places. As night fell, one thing was becoming clear. Tommy Hutchins had been both accomplice and victim. He'd kept the secret that destroyed him. And when he finally tried to do the right thing, his father had killed him for it. The red paint message on the house took on new meaning. Dale hadn't just painted it to warn people away. He'd painted it as a memorial to his son, the boy who couldn't stay out, who had to be carried out. And somewhere, if Tommy's desperate call to Linda Cole was true, Brittany might still be alive. They had to find Dale Hutchins before he finished cleaning up his loose ends. Ryan couldn't sleep. He sat in his apartment, staring at the key from Tommy's apartment, turning it over in his hands. A standard brass padlock key, probably 40 years old based on the wear. The paper with Brittany's thank you was analyzed by the FBI, written in pencil, her handwriting confirmed, but no way to date it. Sheriff Cooper had spent the night going through Tommy's final weeks. Phone records, bank statements, gas receipts. The picture that emerged was of a man unraveling. October 1st, 2020, Tommy withdrew $500 cash from ATM. October 5th, bought 5 gallons of gas paid cash. October 8th, withdrew another $500. October 15th, ordered the red paint from his own store. October 20th, missed 3 days of work. October 31st, sent the FBI tip. November 10th, bought a .308 hunting rifle, the same caliber that would kill him 5 days later. He bought his own murder weapon, Cooper told Rivera over coffee at 6 a.m., or he bought it for protection, and Dale took it from him. They'd interviewed everyone who'd seen Tommy in those final weeks. The bartender at Murphy's remembered him clearly. Kid was drinking heavy, Jake Murphy said. Not normal for Tommy. He was usually a 2-beer guy. But that October, he was here every night, whiskey straight. Did he say anything one night, maybe November 10th or 11th? He was real drunk, kept saying, I can't do it anymore. When I asked what he said, keeping secrets. Then he laughed bitter-like and said 4 years of feeding the ghost Brittany. Ryan had gone back to the burned trailer site with ground-penetrating radar. The official investigation had been minimal. Assumed drug lab explosion, common in rural areas, but Ryan found something they'd missed. a root cellar hidden under debris, inside makeshift living quarters, a cot, portable toilet stack of books, women's clothes, and scratched into the concrete wall. BC 2016 to 2020. Tommy brings food Tuesdays and Fridays. Brittany had been here for 4 years. Rivera stood in the cellar using UV light to find more. Blood on the cot, not much old. Hair in the drain of a makeshift shower. Blonde. DNA would confirm, but they knew. Dale kept one alive. Rivera said, why leverage over Tommy? Cooper suggested, keep helping or she dies. Ryan found something else. A journal hidden inside the wall insulation. Brittany's account of 4 years of captivity. Day 1, December, something 2016. Dale separated me from the others. Says I'm Tommy's responsibility now. Tommy won't look at me. He knows what happened to the others. Day 47. Tommy brought antibiotics for my infected cut. Risked his father's anger. He cried while cleaning the wound. Said, I'm sorry. Over and over. Day 186. I asked Tommy why I'm alive. He said his father needs him to have skin in the game. If Tommy talks, I die. If I escape, Tommy dies. We're both trapped. Day 743. Tommy taught me the feeding schedule. Tuesdays and Fridays always between 2 and 4 p.m. when Dale is at town meetings or church. Tommy times it perfect. Day 1, Aero 95. Tommy's breaking, drinks before he comes now. I can smell it. Today he gave me this key. Said just in case. Won't say what it opens. Day 1, 460. October 2020. Something's changed. Tommy says he found something at the old house. Says he can't do it anymore. Says he's going to get me out. I'm scared. Dale always knows. The last entry was November 14th, 2020. Tommy called someone. Says help is coming. Gave me his truck keys. Told me to run if I hear gunshots. Dale's truck just pulled up. Tommy's going outside to talk to him. It's been an hour. He hasn't come back. Rivera called for cadaver dogs to search the area around the trailer. Within an hour, they found what everyone expected, a shallow grave 200 yards into the woods. But it wasn't Tommy. The dental records confirmed it was a young woman, early 20s, dead approximately 1 year. That's not Brittany, the coroner said. This woman was Asian, probably 5'2" and tall. Been dead since around November 2020. Another victim, someone they didn't even know about. Cooper ran missing persons from 2020. Founder Stephanie Wu, 22, disappeared from State College in September 2020. Last seen at a gas station, 50 millas from here. Dale didn't stop after the 5, Rivera said quietly. He kept going. Ryan was mapping Tommy's movements when he noticed something. Every Tuesday and Friday, Tommy's phone pinged off the same cell tower, not near the trailer, but 3 miles east, middle of nowhere, according to maps. They drove out there, found nothing but forest and an old fire road, but Ryan noticed fresh tire tracks, maybe a week old. Someone had been here recently. Following the tracks led to an old ranger station, abandoned since the 90s, locked with a newish padlock. Ryan held up Tommy's key. It fit inside canned goods, water jugs, medical supplies, a cot with restraints, women's clothes, and on the wall a calendar. The X's marked through dates, stopping at November 14th, 2020. But then in different handwriting, new X's started October 1st, 2021. Someone had been here 3 weeks ago. Brittany's alive, Ryan said, and Dale's still keeping her. They processed. The station found fingerprints. Dale's, Tommy's, and a third set. Female, no match in the system, but there was blood on the doorframe, fresh enough to still have DNA. While they waited for results, Rivera found something in Tommy's bank records she'd missed. A storage unit paid up for 5 years in advance. Paid October 8th to 2020, right after that first ATM withdrawal. The storage unit was in the next county under a fake name, inside boxes of evidence photos of the 5 girls at the house, dated 2016. Dale's journal, the real one, describing in detail what he'd done, and a USB drive labeled insurance. The drive contained videos Dale had recorded himself, confessing, explaining his work, showing the girls while they were alive. Ryan couldn't watch. Cooper made it 30 seconds before running outside to vomit, but at the end of the last video, dated December 2nd, 2016, Dale said something crucial. Brittany stays alive. She's Tommy's project now. Boy needs to learn the family business. Either he becomes like me or he breaks. Either way, I win. Tommy had gathered all this to expose his father had paid for the storage unit to keep it safe. The FBI tip had probably meant to include this location, but Tommy died before he could give details. Rivera's phone rang. DNA results from the ranger station. The blood was less than 72 hours old female, and it matched partial DNA from the burned trailer. Samples they thought were too degraded to identify. Brittany Cole was alive, and she'd been at that ranger station 3 days ago. Dale's keeping her on the move. Cooper said he knows we're close. Ryan stood in the storage unit, surrounded by evidence of 5 years of horror. Tommy had tried to stop it, had gathered proof, made plans, tried to save at least one person. We need to find Dale now, Ryan said before he decides Brittany's too much of a liability. Cooper's phone rang. It was dispatch. Sheriff, we just got a 911 call. Hiker found a woman wandering Highway 19 blonde, early 20s, asking for Sheriff Cooper. By name, says her name is Brittany Cole. They raced to the hospital, but when they arrived, the woman was gone. The nurse said she'd panicked when a man in a baseball cap walked past her room, ran out the emergency exit. Security footage showed her running into the woods. The man in the baseball cap followed. It was Dale Hutchins. The hunt was on, but now it was clear Brittany had escaped on her own, using the chaos of the investigation, and Dale was hunting her through the same woods where this all began. Dale Hutchins had been invisible in plain sight for 40 years. 40. Rivera's team assembled his history while helicopters searched the forest for him in Brittany. Born 1959, married Linda in 1981, had Tommy in 1996. Linda died of cancer in 2010. That seemed to be when things changed. First girl went missing in 2011, Rivera noted. Hannah Morrison, 19, from Cookville, never connected to our case until now. Dale's work history was sporadic but strategic. Handyman maintenance, seasonal work jobs that gave him access to properties, families' routines. He'd fixed pipes in the Morrison house 2 weeks before Hannah vanished. Sheriff Cooper found Dale's actual property records, not just what he owned, but what he had access to. His deceased brother's hunting camp, his father-in-law's farm properties he maintained for out-of-state owners, 17 locations total where he could move freely without anyone questioning it. He's got hiding spots all over this county. Cooper said Ryan was at the hospital watching the security footage again. Brittany had been there for exactly 12 minutes. She'd told the nurse Dale Hutchins killed them all. Tell Sheriff Cooper Dale killed Tommy too. Then she'd seen the man in the baseball cap and ran. The man followed her for 30 seconds, then veered off to the parking lot, got in a truck, and drove away opposite direction from where Brittany ran. He wasn't chasing her. Ryan realized he was herding her into the woods where he knew the terrain better than anyone. The search teams found traces within hours, torn fabric on a branch from the hospital gown, footprints in mud, bare feet running, then boot prints following at a steady pace, not running, walking, patient. Dale knew she couldn't run forever. At Dale's house, a modest cabin 5 miles from town, they found more evidence. The basement was a workshop of horror. Restraints mounted to the walls, soundproofing foam, a drain in the concrete floor, and photographs. Dozens of girls over decades, most unidentified. But it was the room upstairs that chilled everyone. Tommy's childhood bedroom, preserved exactly as it had been. Baseball trophies, school photos, Boy Scout badges, normal except for the lock on the outside of the door. He locked Tommy in, Cooper said, probably for years. Inside the mattress, hidden in a slit, were pages in Tommy's teenage handwriting.
Dad brings women here, makes me help, says it's family tradition, says his dad did it too. I want to die. I'm 16 today. Dad's gift was making me bury the latest one. Said I'm officially a man now. I dream about telling someone, but who'd believe me? Dale Hutchkins, the helpful neighbor, the guy who volunteers at church. Rhea found financial records. Dale had been receiving regular payments for 20 years, $5,000 monthly deposited to an account he'd opened under his brother's name. The deposits came from a shell company that traced back to another shell company. Someone was paying him. Rivera said this wasn't just Dale's operation.
Ryan remembered something from Brittany's journal at the burned trailer. She'd written about Dale talking on the phone saying, "Yes, sir, and the new batch is ready." Dale wasn't the top of the chain. He was middle management. The break came from an unexpected source. Stephanie Wu's family had hired a private investigator when she disappeared. He'd tracked her movements, found she'd been corresponding with someone online about a modeling opportunity. The IP address traced to the library in Millbrook. Security footage from the library September 2020. Dale Hutchkins at a computer typing, creating the fake modeling agency site Hunting. Oh, but in the background of one frame, someone else was visible. Someone watching Dale work someone they all recognized. Judge Harold Mitchell, District Court, 68 years old, pillar of the community. Cooper felt sick. Mitchell had presided over hundreds of cases, had access to sealed records, troubled teens, vulnerable women in the system. Pull every missing person case Mitchell had any connection to Rivera ordered. The list was staggering. 38 women over 20 years. Not all would be connected, but the pattern was clear. Young women who'd been through Mitchell's courtroom for minor offenses, drugs, shoplifting, probation violations, the kind of women who might not be immediately missed. They needed a warrant for Mitchell, but they needed evidence first. Dale's payments weren't enough. They needed something concrete. That's when the call came in. A ranger at Tower Station 4 reported someone breaking into the emergency supply shed. The description matched Brittany. By the time they arrived, she was gone, but she'd left a message carved into the wooden wall. Mitchell basement. Other girls still alive. How did she know? Had she heard Dale on calls? Had Tommy told her Rivera made the call? We need a warrant for Judge Mitchell's residence. Now, while they waited, Ryan tracked the timeline. Mitchell had been at the hospital the day Brittany appeared. He was the man in the baseball cap. He'd herded her into the woods where Dale was waiting, but Brittany had gotten away, was still getting away. The warrant came through at 8:00 p.m. They moved on Mitchell's house, a sprawling Victorian on the hill overlooking town. Mitchell answered the door in his robe, playing confused. "This is harassment. I'll have your badges." They found the basement door behind a bookshelf, locked with a digital keypad. Mitchell refused to give the code. They brought in equipment to break it. The smell hit them first. Human waste, fear, but also life. 3 women chained to walls alive. Ashley Chen missing since 2019. Maria Rodriguez missing since January 2021. And someone who shouldn't have been there. Taylor Moss, one of the original 5. She was alive, traumatized beyond recognition, but alive. Dale said I was too valuable to bury. She whispered, said the judge paid extra for college girls.
Rivera arrested Mitchell on the spot. He said nothing except, "I want my lawyer." But Taylor, once she started talking, couldn't stop. There were others sold to other judges, lawyers, rich men. Dale was the collector. Mitchell was the distributor. There's a whole network. "Where's Brittany?" Ryan asked. "She was here," Taylor said. Mitchell kept her separate, his favorite. But 2 days ago, Dale came to get her, said the FBI was getting close. Time to clean house. Cooper's radio crackled. Search team had found something, a body in the woods. Ryan's heart stopped, but it wasn't Brittany. It was Dale, shot once in the head with a .308 rifle, the same kind that killed Tommy. He'd been dead about 6 hours. In his pocket, a note in Brittany's handwriting for Tommy. For all of them. She'd taken the rifle. Dale had been hunting her with turned it on him. After 5 years of captivity, Brittany Cole had become the hunter, but she was still out there, still running or hunting. Rivera found Mitchell's computer encrypted, but crackable. The initial results were staggering communications with buyers across the country, a network of powerful men who ordered girls like takeout. Dale had been their supplier for the Southeast region. This is massive, Rivera said. Hundreds of victims, dozens of perpetrators, but Ryan was focused on one thing, finding Brittany before she disappeared completely. She'd survived 5 years of hell, escaped, killed her captor, and revealed a nationwide trafficking ring. She was either going to be their star witness or she was going to vanish forever. As night fell, one truth was clear. Dale Hutchins was dead, but his shadow stretched far beyond Millbrook. The father's sins had created a son who tried to save someone, and that someone had ended up saving others. But at what cost? The manhunt for Brittany Cole had shifted. She wasn't a victim to be rescued anymore. She was a witness who'd killed her captor and knew where bodies were buried literally and figuratively. Rivera coordinated 3 search teams while reviewing Mitchell's encrypted files. Each new folder revealed another horror: buyers in Atlanta, Memphis, Charlotte, photographs of girls being prepared for sale, detailed invoices like they were shipping furniture. Brittany saw all this. Rivera said she lived in Mitchell's house for the past year. She knows everything. Ryan refused to join the official search. Instead, he went to places Tommy used to go. The Overlook, where Tommy would drink beer, and think the fishing spot where he taught local kids to cast places where someone might feel safe. At the fishing spot, he found her. Brittany was sitting on the dock, feet in the water, still holding the rifle. She looked up when she heard him approach, but didn't run, didn't raise the weapon. "You're Kayla's brother," she said. Her voice was unused to speaking freely.
Yeah, she talked about you all the time those first weeks. Said you'd find us. She laughed bitterly. She was right. Just 5 years too late. Ryan sat down carefully, few feet away. The FBI needs to know what you know. They'll find out. Mitchell documented everything. He was proud of it. She stared at the water. Do you know what the worst part was? Not the chains or the other stuff. It was that people in town knew had to know, and nobody said anything. Who knew the sheriff before Cooper? Mitchell had photos of him with underage girls, used it as leverage. The bank manager who never questioned Dale's cash deposits, the doctor who treated injuries and never reported them. She gripped the rifle tighter. This whole town is infected. Ryan's phone buzzed. Rivera looking for him. He ignored it. Tommy tried to save you. Brittany's composure cracked. He kept me alive for 4 years, risked everything, bringing me extra food medicine books. Dale made him participate to break him, but Tommy never broke. He just got quieter. His last call was to your aunt trying to get you out. I know, I was there when Dale shot him. Her voice went flat. Dale made me watch. Said that's what happens to people who betray family. Then he moved me to Mitchell's, said I was graduating to the big leagues. She told Ryan about the last year. Mitchell had kept her as a house manager for the other girls, made her prepare them for sale, teach them compliance. If she refused or helped them, they were punished in front of her. Taylor almost died twice because I tried to help her escape. This is where he kept us first, all 5 together. She touched each name carved in the doorframe. Kayla fought the hardest. Jenna prayed constantly. Amber tried to keep our spirits up. Taylor just shut down. Why did he keep you alive, Tommy? When Dale decided to kill the others, Tommy begged for one, said he'd do anything if his dad spared one. Dale thought it was funny. His soft son trying to save someone, so he gave him me as a project. She walked to the corner where they'd found the scratch marks. This is where Kayla died. Dale strangled her while we watched, said it was a lesson about resistance. Ryan's hands were fists, his sister's last moments, and he hadn't been there to protect her. She said your name at the end, Brittany added quietly, said to tell you she loved you. They stood in that basement for 10 minutes silent. Then Brittany handed him the rifle. I'm ready to talk to the FBI now. Rivera met them at the station. The interrogation lasted 18 hours with breaks. Brittany drew maps, named names, provided dates. The network was vast. Judges, politicians, police, businessmen. Mitchell was just one node. There's a summit, Brittany revealed. Every December, they meet to divide territory, set prices, share resources. This year it's in Atlanta, December 15th. That's in 3 weeks, Rivera said. Mitchell already paid for 5 girls to be delivered. They're being collected right now. Rivera immediately contacted the Atlanta office. Multi-state operation forming. This was bigger than anyone imagined, but Brittany had one more revelation. Tommy left something, a safety deposit box. He gave me the key that last day, said if anything happened to him, give it to someone trustworthy. She pulled out a small key different from the padlock key. Bank of Tennessee Millbrook branch box, 447. Cooper got a warrant. Inside the box, USB drives containing videos Dale had made of buyers with their victims, faces clearly visible, judges, sheriffs, mayors, CEOs, hundreds of hours of evidence. Tommy knew this would destroy them all. Cooper said he was building a case. The videos were brutal but undeniable. Mitchell with Taylor, Dale with the original 5, dozens of men with girls who were still missing. But one video stood out. Dale speaking to camera dated October 2020. If you're watching this, I'm dead. Tommy finally grew a spine. But you need to know, I'm not the monster here. I'm just the zookeeper. The real monsters are the ones who pay to visit the zoo. Then he named names. 43 men in 5 states, their preferences, their payments, their victims. He made this for insurance, Rivera said, in case the network turned on him. By evening, arrests were happening across the Southeast. Mitchell had already flipped, trying to save himself by naming everyone. The network was cannibalizing itself, but Brittany sat in the station looking hollow. It doesn't bring them back. Kayla, Amber, Jenna, still dead, still buried out there. Ryan sat beside her, but Taylor's alive. The 3 in Mitchell's basement are alive, and the 5 they were about to take her safe. That's something. Is it enough? No, but it's what we have. That night, Brittany was placed in protective custody. She was the star witness for what would be the biggest trafficking case in Tennessee history. But she was also a killer. Dale's death would need to be addressed. Self-defense, the DA said immediately. After 5 years of captivity, clear case of self-defense. As Ryan drove home, he passed the abandoned house one more time. The FBI was excavating the graves, returning remains to families. 4 of the 5 original girls would finally go home. But somewhere out there were dozens more burial sites, dozens more families who might never get answers. The hunt for the living was over. The hunt for the dead had just begun. The FBI set up a temporary morgue in the Millbrook Community Center. 17 bodies recovered so far from locations Brittany had mapped. Families gathered outside, waiting to know if their daughters' sisters' wives were among the dead. Rivera stood before a wall of missing persons photos. 63 women who'd vanished from Tennessee and surrounding states over 20 years.
They'd identified 11 bodies so far through DNA, 52 families still waiting. Dale's journal recovered from a hidden compartment in his truck filled in the gaps. Entry number 1, June 2011. Mitchell says the market's growing. Younger, prettier, more specific requests. Says I'm an artist at finding them. Funny. Dad called it culling the herd, weak ones, lost ones nobody important will miss. Entry number 15, October 2016. The 5 college girls were ambitious, but Mitchell wanted a bulk order. Said his buyers were pooling resources. Took them all at once, too risky. But the money, $250,000 for the set. Entry number 47, December 2016. Had to kill 4. Mitchell only wanted 1 blonde. Tommy begged for the Cole girl. Weak boy. But maybe saving 1 will toughen him up, make him understand the family business. Ryan couldn't read anymore, but Rivera forced herself through all 200 entries, each one detailed, methodical, proud. He documents 43 murders, she told Cooper, and 17 sales. The sales might still be alive somewhere. The breakthrough came from Taylor Moss recovering in the hospital. She'd started talking about her year with Mitchell. He had video calls every week with buyers. They'd show their purchases like they were showing off cars. I saw Stephanie Wu on one call. She was in Dubai alive, but she couldn't continue. We need those call logs, Rivera said. Mitchell's lawyer was fighting everything, but Mitchell himself was cracking. In exchange for life, instead of death penalty, he gave up his cloud storage password. Hundreds of videos, girls being displayed by buyers around the world, some clearly drugged, some seemingly compliant after years of conditioning, but alive. 17 confirmed alive in the past year. We can track them, Rivera said. International operations, but we can find them. Ryan was in the woods with search teams following Brittany's maps. She'd insisted on helping despite FBI protests.
At site number 9, an old well on abandoned farmland, cadaver dogs went crazy. 3 bodies, different stages of decomposition, the oldest from maybe 2012. I don't remember this one, Brittany said, staring at the well. Dale must have used it before he started documenting everything. They pulled up the remains. 3 young women, no identification, but one had a distinctive tattoo, a butterfly on her ankle. Maria Santos Cooper said immediately reported missing. In 2012, her family still puts up posters every year. As they cataloged each site, a pattern emerged. The early victims were buried carelessly, barely hidden. But starting in 2016, they were deeper, more carefully concealed. Tommy Brittany, he explained. Dale made him do the burials after 2016. Tommy insisted on doing it properly, gave them as much dignity as he could. At several graves, they found items Tommy had added, wildflowers planted above small crosses, made from stick stones arranged in patterns.
His silent rebellion against his father's horror. Rivera's phone rang. The Atlanta office had moved on the December summit early, based on Brittany's intel. 47 arrests in 6 states. 3 more girls rescued before they could be sold. But the celebration was muted. For every life saved, there were dozens lost. That night, Ryan found himself at the original abandoned house. The FBI had finished processing it, but the red warning remained on the wall. He stared at those words Dale had painted after killing his own son. There is nothing in this house worth dying for. Stay out or be carried out. Tommy had died trying to save Brittany. Had that been worth dying for? Yes, said a voice behind him. Brittany stood there, having escaped her protective custody detail again. Tommy saved me so I could save others. That was worth it. She touched the painted words. Dale thought this was a warning, but it was really Tommy's epitaph. He couldn't stay out. He had to be carried out. But he saved me first. They stood in silence until Brittany spoke again. There's something else. Something I didn't tell the FBI. Ryan waited. Tommy kept recordings too. Audio files on a hidden phone. He recorded Dale's conversations with buyers, with Mitchell, with others in the network. She pulled out an old flip phone. He gave this to me the day before he died. Said if anything happened, use it to burn them all down. The phone contained 63 audio files. Dale discussing prices, methods, victims, Mitchell placing orders, other voices some Ryan recognized, pillars of their community. Why didn't you give this to the FBI? because one of the voices is Sheriff Cooper's predecessor, Sheriff Mills. He's retired living in Florida, but he facilitated everything for 15 years, and there are others still walking free. Rivera arrived having tracked Brittany's ankle monitor. She looked at the phone, listened to 3 files, then made a decision. We do this right. Every single person on these recordings goes down.
The next morning, Operation Avalanche began. 127 arrests across 8 states. Judges, police, doctors, teachers, business owners. The network Dale and Mitchell had fed was vast, interconnected, protected by mutual blackmail and complicity. Sheriff Mills was arrested on a golf course in Florida. Dr. Harrison, who treated injuries without reporting them, was taken from his practice. Bank manager Tom Frost, who'd laundered the money, arrested at his daughter's wedding. The town of Millbrook imploded. Half the city council was implicated. The local news station's owner was on Mitchell's buyer list. The high school principal had helped identify vulnerable girls. Cooper stood in his empty station. Half his deputies were suspended pending investigation. How did we not see this? Because they made sure you didn't, Rivera said. Mills hired you specifically because you were clean above suspicion. You were their cover. As the arrest count climbed, more victims were found. Some alive in other states and countries, some buried in places Dale hadn't documented. The final count would take years to determine, but one number was certain. Kayla Dawson, Amber Hutchinson, and Jenna Walsh were dead. Their bodies returned to their families for proper burial. Ryan stood at his sister's grave, finally able to mourn properly. Beside him, Brittany placed flowers on all 4 graves, her friends who died while she survived. The truth is terrible, she said. They died because one man saw them as products and another saw them as merchandise. And a whole town looked away. But you didn't, Ryan said. You survived and exposed them all. Tommy exposed them. I just finished what he started. The FBI estimated the full network had trafficked over 300 women across 2 decades. They'd recovered 61 bodies, rescued 23 survivors, and were tracking 47 more internationally. But for the families in Millbrook, the numbers didn't matter.
Only the names, the daughters, sisters, friends who'd vanished into Dale Hutchins' shadow. As the sun set over the town, Brittany made one last revelation. There's a bunker under Mitchell's house, behind a false wall in his basement. He mentioned it once when he was drunk, said it was his insurance policy. I think there might be someone still down there. Rivera's team moved immediately. They found the bunker, and inside, barely alive, was Hannah Morrison, the first girl who disappeared in 2011. She'd been there 10 years, forgotten by everyone except the man who owned her. She was alive, broken beyond recognition, but alive. The terrible truth was finally complete. The evil wasn't just Dale or Mitchell. It was an entire ecosystem of predators enabled by a community's willful blindness. But Tommy Hutchins, trapped in that ecosystem, had saved one person, and that one person had saved dozens more. In the end, that had to count for something. The town hall meeting was supposed to be about healing and moving forward. 2 weeks after Operation Avalanche, with half the town's leadership in federal custody, the remaining officials called for unity. Ryan sat in the back row watching maybe 50 people in a room that could hold 300. Brittany was beside him, required to attend as part of her witness protection agreement. Federal marshals stood at every exit. Mayor Patricia Daniels, one of the few officials not implicated, tried to maintain order. We need to discuss how to rebuild trust in our institutions. Trust. Dorothy Corwin stood up, Ashley's mother, finally able to bury her daughter. You want to talk about trust? Where were you all when our girls were disappearing? Mrs. Corwin, we understand. No, you don't. Another mother, Rebecca Morrison's. Hannah was kept in a bunker for 10 years, while Judge Mitchell sat at community dinners, while Sheriff Mills gave speeches about safety. while Dr.
Harrison treated our kids' broken bones and said nothing. The meeting devolved quickly. Accusations, denials, people walking out. But then someone unexpected stood up. Harold Mitchell. He was out on bail ankle monitor, visible awaiting trial. His lawyer tried to stop him, but Mitchell shook him off. You want the truth. Mitchell's voice was steady, unrepentant. The truth is, you all knew. Maybe not the details, but you knew something was wrong. Girls don't just vanish. But it was easier to believe they ran away than to ask hard questions. You son of a bitch, someone shouted. I'm a son of a... Who gave you exactly what this town wanted. Mitchell continued. Order, prosperity. I kept the bad elements out, made sure your property value stayed high, and if some runaway girls were the price, you were happy to pay it as long as you didn't have to see the bill. Sheriff Cooper stood. Harold Mitchell, you're under arrest for violating your bail conditions. But Mitchell wasn't done. Dale Hutchkins worked on every farm in this county, fixed every car, helped at every church fundraiser. You think nobody noticed when girls disappeared after he'd been around? You think Tommy just seemed traumatized for no reason? As Cooper cuffed him, Mitchell looked directly at Brittany. Ask her how many times people almost helped, how many times someone could have said something. Brittany stood slowly. He's right. The room went silent. October 2016. Mrs. Patterson saw Dale's truck at the abandoned house. She mentioned it at the grocery store, wondering why he was out there. Nobody followed up. November 2016. Tommy came to the clinic with scratches on his arms. Said he'd been helping his dad with something difficult. Nurse Jenkins didn't file a report. December 2016. The bank noticed Dale's suspicious deposits. They filed a currency transaction report that went nowhere. She pulled out a notebook. I kept track every time someone almost helped. 47 instances over 4 years. 47 times this town chose to look away. Mayor Daniels tried to regain control. We can't change the past. No, but you can acknowledge it, Ryan said, standing beside Brittany. This wasn't just Dale and Mitchell. This was systematic failure, systematic complicity. The meeting ended without resolution. Outside news vans waited. The story had gone national. The town that knew was trending on social media. Rivera approached Ryan and Brittany. We have a problem. 3 of Mitchell's buyers haven't been located. They've gone underground. Who Gregory Marsh, David Chin, and Robert Polson all had girls in their possession as of last month. If they've killed them to avoid prosecution, Brittany pulled out Tommy's phone. There might be something. She scrolled through files. Tommy recorded a conversation between Dale and someone named Greg, mentioned a fallback location in case things went bad. The recording was poor quality but audible. Dale, if heat comes, you know the protocol. Greg Mountain Properties ready. Supplies for 6 months. Dale, the girls. Greg, they travel with us or they don't travel at all. He'll kill them rather than get caught. Cooper said, but Brittany was thinking, no, Greg Marsh is different. I heard Mitchell talk about him. He thinks he's in love with his victim, calls her his wife. He'll run with her, not kill her. Where would he run? The recording mentions mountain property. Dale had a cousin with a cabin in the Smokies. Off-grid solar power, well water, perfect place to disappear. They mobilized within hours. FBI, ATF, local police. The cabin was 70 mi into the mountains, accessible only by a logging road that hadn't been maintained in years. Ryan insisted on coming. These girls deserved to see friendly faces, not just tactical gear. The approach was careful. Thermal imaging showed 5 heat signatures inside, 3 adults, 2 smaller children or teenagers. Rivera made the call. We go in quiet. If he thinks he's cornered, he might. Gunfire erupted from the cabin. Automatic weapons. Marsh had been waiting. Federal agents released the hostages. More gunfire. Then a woman's scream. Then silence. The tactical team breached inside. Chaos. Marsh was dead. Self-inflicted gunshot. David Chen was wounded, surrendering. Robert Polson was trying to barricade himself in a back room, but the girls were alive. 3 of them. Sarah Chen, no relation. 17 missing since 2019. Lucy Marsh, 22 missing since 2018. And in the back room with Polson, someone unexpected. Brittany's friend from the original 5, Jenna Walsh. She was alive. He bought me from Dale. She whispered after Polson was dragged away. The night before Dale was going to kill us all. Paid extra to get me early. I've been in his basement for 5 years. Ryan called Brittany immediately. Jenna's alive. The silence on the other end stretched so long, he thought she'd hung up, then sobbing.
5 years of believing all her friends were dead and one had been alive the whole time. The reunion happened at the hospital. Jenna was skeletal traumatized but recognized Brittany immediately. They held each other for 20 minutes, neither speaking. Later, Jenna revealed more. There are others. Polson bragged about a whole community men who have bought girls and formed a kind of neighborhood somewhere in West Virginia. Maybe 20 girls total. Rivera's expression was grim. This never ends. Every arrest reveals 10 more criminals, but there was hope. The 3 girls rescued from the cabin were alive. Jenna was alive. Hannah Morrison, after 10 years in Mitchell's bunker, was slowly recovering. 23 victims had been found alive internationally based on Mitchell's records. That night, there was one more confrontation. Dale's brother Dennis arrived in town. He'd been questioned but cleared. Lived in Alaska, no involvement, but he wanted to see where Dale died. Ryan took him to the spot in the woods. Dennis stood there looking at the bloodstained ground. I knew, Dennis said quietly. Not details, but I knew Dale was wrong. Evil. Dad was the same way. Granddad too, probably. Why didn't you say something to who? When I was 8, I saw Dad kill a woman. Told Mom she said I was dreaming. Told a teacher she called me a liar. Told the sheriff he had a talk with Dad. Then told me to stop making up stories. Dennis pulled out old photos. Dale and Tommy years ago. Tommy looked happy, innocent, maybe 10 years old. Tommy called me once, 2016, said he needed help, said his dad was making him do terrible things. I told him to call the police. Dennis's voice broke. He said the police already knew. Then he hung up, never called again. The final count from the mountain cabin raid. 3 girls rescued alive. 2 perpetrators dead. Marsh suicide. Chen died from wounds. 1 arrested Polson. Intelligence on 12 more locations across 3 states. But it was Jenna's survival that changed everything for Brittany. Her testimony revealed that Dale had sold at least 3 of the dead girls instead of killing them, which meant others might still be alive. We have to find them. Brittany told Rivera, every buyer, every property, every lead. That could take years. Then it takes years. As they drove back to Millbrook, past the abandoned house where it all started, Ryan noticed something. The red warning had been painted over. Someone had written new words. 5 went missing. 2 came home. We remember them all. Below it, fresh flowers, 5 bunches, 1 for each girl, who'd vanished that October night in 2016. The confrontation with the truth was far from over. Every arrest, every rescue, every body recovered revealed more horror, but also more hope. Tommy Hutchins had saved Brittany. Brittany had saved dozens. And the network that had seemed invincible was crumbling. Evil had deep roots in Millbrook. But for the first time in 20 years, those roots were being pulled into the light. 1 year later, Ryan stood at the entrance to Cherokee National Forest, watching them dismantle the last of the memorial. 5 white crosses that had stood for 6 years were being replaced with a single stone monument. 4 names etched in granite: Kayla Dawson, Amber Hutchinson, Taylor Moss, Ashley Cole, Jenna Walsh, and Brittany Cole stood beside him, both alive but forever changed. The trials had taken 11 months. Mitchell got life without parole after his death sentence was commuted for cooperation. 43 others got sentences ranging from 10 years to life. Polson hanged himself in his cell before trial. The investigation continued to ripple outward. 847 arrests nationwide so far, 73 girls found alive, 249 bodies recovered and returned to families. Millbrook itself had nearly died. Half the businesses closed after their owners were arrested. Property values crashed.
Families moved away, unable to bear the weight of what their town had hidden. The population dropped from 8,000 to 3,200 in 12 months, but some stayed to rebuild. Sheriff Cooper, cleared of any involvement, but broken by his failure to see what was happening, had resigned. His replacement, Maria Santos from the state police, was systematic in her reforms, mandatory reporting protocols, anonymous tip systems, quarterly reviews of all missing persons cases. It won't happen again, she'd promised at her swearing in. Ryan wanted to believe her. Brittany had testified at 17 trials, each time reliving 5 years of horror, but she'd also identified 32 more victims. From photos helped locate 11 burial sites, and her testimony had freed 19 girls still alive in various locations. She lived in Millbrook, now in a small apartment, paid for by victims' compensation. She worked at the new crisis center counseling trauma survivors. Some days were better than others. I could leave.
She told Ryan once, "Start fresh somewhere. But this is where Tommy saved me. This is where I need to be." Jenna had moved to Portland to live with relatives. 5 years in Polson's basement had left her with severe PTSD, agoraphobia, and a fear of men that might never fade. She video called Brittany every week, 2 survivors checking on each other. Taylor was in psychiatric treatment in Nashville. Mitchell's year of special attention had fractured her mind. Some days she knew where she was. Other days she thought she was still in his basement. Her parents had sold everything to pay for her care. The abandoned house had been burned down by the families, but developers wanted to build on the land. Ryan had fought them in court, arguing it should remain empty as a memorial. He'd lost. By next spring, it would be a gas station. Hannah Morrison, after 10 years in Mitchell's bunker, had made the most remarkable recovery.
She'd returned to school, was studying social work, planned to become a counselor. Someone has to understand what survivors need, she said. Someone who's been there. At Dale's property, now seized by the state FBI agents, still searched for bodies. Ground-penetrating radar had found 17 more anomalies. Each excavation brought news vans back to town, wounds reopening. Tommy's grave had become an unexpected pilgrimage site. Families of survivors left flowers, notes thanking him. His headstone read simply, Thomas Hutchkins, 1996 to 2020. He saved who he could. Dennis Hutchkins had moved to Millbrook, trying to atone for his family's sins. He donated Dale's assets to victim funds, volunteered at the crisis center, faced daily hatred from people who saw Dale in his features. I should have come back sooner, he told Ryan, should have stopped it. You were a kid when it started, so was Tommy, but he found a way to fight back. The nationwide investigation had revealed the horrifying scope.
The network Dale and Mitchell fed had operated in 17 states, involved over 400 buyers, and trafficked an estimated 100 women over 30 years. It was the largest human trafficking bust in U.S. history. But for Ryan, the numbers meant nothing compared to one fact. Kayla was dead. He visited her grave every Sunday. Sometimes Brittany came with him. They'd sit in silence, 2 people bound by loss and survival. She would have saved us all, Brittany said one day. If anyone could have escaped, it would have been Kayla. But she didn't leave you behind. No, she fought Dale to protect us. That's how she died, protecting others. The FBI estimated there were still 200 women missing who might be connected to the network. International operations continued following leads to Dubai, Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia. Some would be found, most wouldn't. Brenda Dawson had started a foundation in Kayla's name. It had raised $3 million for survivor support and trafficking prevention.
She spoke at conferences, testified before Congress, became the face of families destroyed by trafficking. But at home, she still kept Kayla's room exactly as it was. I know she's not coming back, she told Ryan, but changing it feels like letting her go completely. The anniversary arrived with unexpected news. Brazilian authorities had raided a compound based on Mitchell's data. 12 American women found, including 3 from Tennessee. One was Rebecca Martinez, missing since 2014, sold before Dale started keeping detailed records. She was alive, traumatized, addicted to drugs they'd forced on her, but alive. Her return revealed one more truth. Dale had been selling girls since at least 2005, not 2011 as they thought. The early victims were never documented, never counted. The true number might never be known. At the memorial ceremony, 600 people gathered, families of victims, survivors, investigators, media. Rivera spoke about the ongoing investigation. The mayor spoke about healing.
Brittany spoke about Tommy, but it was 8-year-old Amy Patterson who provided the most honest moment. She'd walked up to the microphone uninvited and said, "My mom says we didn't know, but that's not true. We just didn't want to know. My sister saw Mr. Dale taking those girls. She told Mom. Mom said to mind our own business. Now those girls are dead, and it's our fault too." Her mother pulled her away embarrassed, but she'd said what everyone knew. Millbrook hadn't been innocent. It had been willfully blind. As the ceremony ended, Ryan noticed someone at the edge of the crowd. A young woman, mid-20s blonde, watching intently. When she saw him looking, she disappeared into the trees. He followed, found her standing by the road. She looked familiar, but he couldn't place her. "I'm Emma," she said. "Emma Hutchins, Dale's daughter." Ryan tensed. Dale didn't have a daughter, not officially. "My mom was one of his first victims back in 2003, got pregnant. He let her go on the condition. She never came back, never told anyone." She pulled out an old photo, a young woman holding a baby, Dale visible in the background. "I just found out 6 months ago, when Mom died. Cancer, deathbed confession. Why are you here? To apologize, to help?" "I don't know." She pulled out a flash drive. Mom kept journals, details about Dale from 2003 to 2004, names of other victims' buyers from back then. Thought maybe it could help find more people. Ryan took the drive. Another piece of the endless puzzle. "There's something else," Emma said. "Mom mentioned another man, Dale's partner before Mitchell, someone called Teacher. She said Teacher was worse than Dale. Said he didn't just sell girls. He made them disappear completely. Teacher's dead. Patricia Vance? She died in Patricia Vance? Was in prison in 2003. Drug charges. Mom described Teacher as a man, tall, thin, educated. Said he had a place in the mountains where girls went but never came back." Ryan felt cold. Another layer. Always another layer.
Emma left her contact information and disappeared. The drive contained 60 pages of journals describing Dale's early crimes in disturbing detail and repeated references to Teacher. Rivera ran the description through databases. One match Professor Martin Walsh, retired from State College in 2005, owned property in the Smokies, disappeared in 2008 after allegations of student assault. Walsh. Jenna's last name was Walsh. When they asked her, Jenna went pale. "My Uncle Martin. He disappeared when I was 12. Family said he went abroad." The investigation reopened again. As Ryan drove home, he passed the site where the abandoned house had stood. Construction had begun on the gas station. Soon there would be no physical reminder of what happened there, but the scars remained in the survivors who would never fully heal, in the families with empty chairs at dinner tables in the town that would never recover its innocence. At home, Ryan opened a beer and sat on his porch. Brittany joined him. As she did most evenings, they didn't talk much, didn't need to. "Do you think it's over?" she asked. "This network is, but there are others. There always have been, always will be." Then what was the point? If it never ends? Ryan thought about Kayla, about Tommy, about all the girls saved and lost. We saved who we could. That has to be enough. But as they sat in the gathering darkness, both knew it would never be enough. The cost of the truth had been everything. Innocence, community, faith, and humanity. The victory was hollow, incomplete, and temporary. In the woods, owls called to each other. Normal sounds of a normal night, except nothing in Millbrook would ever be normal again. 5 friends had gone camping in 2016. 2 came home alive. The red paint warning was gone, but its truth remained. There had been nothing in that house worth dying for. But Tommy Hutchkins had died anyway to save one person, and that one person had saved dozens more.
In the arithmetic of horror, that was the only equation that mattered. The story ended where it began, with loss, with searching, with a terrible knowledge that evil had been there all along, wearing a familiar face, fixing your car, coaching your kids living next door. The abandoned house was gone, but its ghost would haunt Millbrook forever. Some stories don't have happy endings, only survivors. And survival, Brittany had learned, was its own kind of prison one, with invisible bars that followed you everywhere forever. She and Ryan sat in silence as the stars came out. 2 people bound by tragedy, carrying the weight of all the girls who didn't come home. Tomorrow the search would continue. More bodies would be found, more survivors identified, more arrests made. But tonight they simply sat with their ghosts, remembering 5 girls who'd gone camping on an October night, laughing about their digital detox, unaware that evil was waiting in the woods. Evil that wore a helpful face.
Evil that everybody knew. Evil that nobody stopped until it was too late for almost everyone.